For 20 years, I have been reaching through the veil to touch my mom through my textiles and through my paintings and through my colors. And today I'm going to give you a tour of the studio and show you exactly how I do that. My studio is a cathedral of light that sits beside the pond, and my garden is right outside between the studio and the pond. And this is the source of where I meet Mom. Mom's been gone for 35 years. And I learned to connect with her through the colors, through the textiles. When I was a girl, she took me to painting classes, stayed and took the painting classes with me, taught me to sew, taught me all the different fabrics, and it's no mistake that I still have her 1965 sewing machine, and I can feel her pierce the fiber of my being when the needle goes through the fabric. Truth be told, I don't do that much sewing anymore. I glue it. So on the table here are pieces from my newest Among Roses Love collection, and I want to show you them up close so that, let's get it right side up. All right, so let's look at, this is painted on Belgian linen, and the collage is silk chamise, I can't say it right, sorry. Kind of turned it at an angle for you. There are 9 of these in the collection. Each one is very different from the next. So for example, from the same piece of cloth, this piece has more of the coral and some of the whites and the roses. So there's something about cultivating love. Roses, of course, symbolize love, and laying them in the 9 patch kind of alludes to my garden and, you know, laying out a patch, a garden patch or a plot. And so Mom has taught me through these experiential interchanges with her over the last 35 years that we can connect with each other heart to heart, and we can talk. Now, the first 10 years, she was doing a lot of talking and I wasn't listening. I didn't know she was there. So it took a while for her to get through to me. And then during some late nights with my sisters, we compared notes and found out that she was talking to them too. So I started to tune in and listen. And of course, that took a while as well to understand how to hear her. So for me, she's coming through my art, and you will recognize if you have someone who's on the other side or even someone who is out of touch. Let's stop and talk about this for a minute. The Rose Garden series, the impetus for this series was 2 years ago. The voles ate the roots of my prized coral climbing rose. The rose was as big as it was like a dinner plate size rose, and it was all the way up on the arbor where the deer couldn't get it. And you know, I'd had this ongoing thing with the deer and trying to keep them away from my roses and on and on and on. And it was blooming prolifically across the top of the arbor, and I was ecstatic. And I went out one day and sat down on the mermaid bench and looked up and suddenly realized that the rose was black. Every leaf, every petal, every stalk, black, dead as a doornail. And it took me, you know, oh my God, the voles ate the roots. But at the same time, this cloud just drenched over me because I realized that the garden was telling me my son, who had been struggling with too much stress going on in his life, the birth of a new daughter and lots of things going on at work. And he cut all his family ties, all his family roots, all at once. And all of these two things juxtaposed, and I just sat there on the bench and stared. That's been 2.5 years ago. And slowly I've been looking for, how can I reach out? How can I reach out to that granddaughter? I still can't write the letter that I could leave in my will to her. It hurts too much to even think of those words. I can't grieve for a child that's not dead. There's no way for this. And so I looked to my artwork to find a way to reach out in some way, reach out with my heart, with my art. Will it work? I don't know, but it feels better doing something. And I know I'm not the only one. And let's face it, there's lots of, when I started to think about it, I've been mourning the loss of girlfriends who have moved away, or a sister who, doesn't call all that often, or, just life goes on and things change, and we mourn, we start to shrink when we lose those things. And so I began to see that there was a way to hold the love, a container for that love, and that I didn't need to wait for something to change. I just need to be the container for the love, and that alters everything. And so that's what this art project is. So I want to show you the fabric and how the fabric is made. And this is one I'm working on. So I have taken a painting that I worked on earlier in the year and printed it on the Belgian linen. And then I've been using acrylic and fabric medium to make a really washy kind of color and let it seep down into the fiber, so you can see how the color is seeping into the warp and weft of the weave of this Belgian linen. When the connection is made, the flow comes and it comes out of my hand, so it becomes what I call automatic writing, comes out in either willow charcoal or oil paint stick, and this sits on the surface. So part of it is seeping into the fiber of my being, the other part is sitting on the surface. And the other place that the flow starts is also in my journal, so that's where the haiku comes out. The dreams spill out there in a kind of automatic writing, so do the stories and the way they weave together. So I don't know this all ahead of time. I don't figure it out ahead of time. There's no such thing as that. There's only letting the creator come through my heart and speak what needs to be said. And my way of knowing this is through the colors and through the experience of witnessing the process. It just so happens that this morning, as I was preparing to do this talk with you, I noticed a woman walking outside my window into my garden. Well, we live out in the country, nobody's around. And so I stepped out on the deck in my jammies and said, hello. And she said she had followed my dog. She was afraid that my dog was trying to tell her that somebody had fallen or that I needed help or something like that. And so I met a neighbor this morning, and she wound up coming into the studio, and we introduced ourselves, and I shared this story with her. And it's just the creator's way of giving me the words to share with you. I wouldn't have known that you would want to see this piece of fabric and how I had painted this had she not stumbled through my garden this morning and into my studio, and the next thing I knew, I was showing her this in my jammies. And so I'm sharing with you as well, because now I know. There's 9 of these, and I've taken the other panel. I have another panel that I cut into 9 18-inch pieces, and each one is different. Each one is stretched on a gallery wrap stretcher. All right, so here's the haiku. And I picked out my favorite frame for these. And this is gonna go in the champagne float frame like this. And on the back, you will be able to see the haiku. It'll be like this on the back, so it'll come ready to hang like this. We have ways of knowing things that we don't know, that we know. And so I kept having this vision of the simple 9-patch square. And it wasn't until I physically let this out and created 3 of them that these 6 had been in the studio since last February. And they had gone through various iterations, and they were kind of in a I don't know zone. And the I don't know zone is a really mushy looking place. I mean, it's like a garden that, you know, at the end of the season, there's just a lot of stuff left over and you don't know what you're supposed to do with it. But all of a sudden I could see them. And I had this sudden urge to go by the fabric store. And when I found this is, what do you call it? Silk chamoose that's hand painted. And so I've been cutting them and making the rose garden plots out of these with the collage and some of this organic translucent silk, so that when you put it on the canvas, you can see the colors through it. This one has some of the sequins, as well as the organic, and bits of the linen from the other fabric. So these 2 go together. This one and this one go together. These 2 go together. And this one, there's 2 others that this one is much more rich with detail and silks and all kinds of magical things. I can't even say all of these things that are incorporated into this. Let's back out so you can see the piece. So I'm using a combination of jewel tones and pastel tones, because what I find is that most of us need a little softness and a little sparkle. And so the combination of what I would call sunrise colors, the gentleness of a sunrise, and the vibrancy of a sunset, this seems to connect heaven and earth and heart and soul in a really, really special way. Now, if I ask a lot of, now here's the other one. This is the mate to the other garden. You can see how the silks and the layers of paint are all layered in together. Much texture, lots and lots of texture on this piece. So let's just talk for a minute about how to use the art to connect heart to heart with someone that you love, no matter where they are, whether they're close by or far away or already crossed over, whatever. It doesn't matter, because your heart is a super, super powerful creative force, I guess I want to say. And the power of the heart to create, to connect, is something that you always have. Love is like a muscle that you can flex, and when something happens, we forget that. When someone dies, we just kind of go, it takes our breath away, and we don't even know what foot to put forward. And of all the different traumatic things that I've experienced, what I keep coming back to is something. Take some action. So for me, having the little painting, I'm going to hang one right there on the wall in my kitchen where I make my coffee in the morning, because that will remind me, that will be a physical, tangible, like a touchstone for connecting to all the love of all the women who have ever contributed to my life. And the idea that collage is like, okay, well, we add a little of this and a little of that, and it's an inclusive thing. It's not, did I make the right brushstroke or did I whatever? It's not a judgmental thing, it's inclusive. Oh, I'm accepting of this and I'm accepting of that. And so all the things of life, all the loves and all the losses are all part of the life. And that's what I'm creating in these works, an acknowledgement of that. And so as I would encourage you to choose the one that feels like that to you, that feels inclusive of everything that's ever happened to you, the good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful, is like, we can't sit around and wait for our dream to happen. The dream comes true when we take action, when we own the love that we already have. I found myself hesitant to even go visit my 6 other grandchildren because I couldn't see the 7th one. And then I caught myself, and after a year and a half, and I thought, my God, Dorothy, you're crazy. You have these 6 beautiful grandchildren, and you haven't visited them in a year because you're so busy trying to figure out how to see the one you can't see. And so I had it all backwards. And so this is the reminder of that. This is the tangible part. So Mom is, she's not in my face every day, but she answers if I ask. She's there in the most unexpected ways, in the most subtle of ways. And they're not things that we're taught to, it's kind of airy-fairy, and it's only that way if I say it is. But if I say it is, my heart flexes and it gets bigger and stronger. And then I know that that's my truth. And if that's your truth, then I invite you to take action on your truth, because that's what you're here for. Thank you so much for visiting my studio. I'll see you soon.